Hello and welcome to NFL Football Bets. I'm your host Lewis. Further to our last video on the channel where we looked at edges in the regular season wins in the over-under market, today we'll be looking at more NFL preseason bets ahead of the 2025 season, specifically looking at bookies' odds for exact finishing positions in each NFL division. This video will also touch on two bonus bets that I'll be placing this year. These types of bets come at a higher odds, and understandably so when there are so many more variables at play across the whole division rather than just individual teams on the over-under market. But in this video I'll shortlist prices which I think seem reasonable considering all of those factors. As always, please gamble responsibly. Link is in the description below. Please like and subscribe. It takes just 2 seconds of your time and 2 clicks of a button and really does make a huge difference to this channel, especially as we are just starting out. We'll have even more videos like this leading up to the season and weekly betting angles when the season begins. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, as usual, I'd like to give the methodology behind these tips before we discuss them in more detail. I looked at the schedule list for every NFL team, assigning wins or losses across all fixtures, and even gave both a floor and a ceiling prediction as to how many regular season wins I predict. Those predictions also take into account factors such as whether teams have underperformed or overperformed last season, looking at key stats such as offensive yards gained and allowed on average per game, any injuries a team may have towards the end of last season or during the off-season, any departures, any signings, the NFL draft, etc. etc. Once those wins and losses are determined, the floor and ceiling for each, I then ranked those teams into their respective divisions based on their average wins and losses for the season, giving what would then be a season-ending table. I then looked to see what the bookies are offering for exact finishing spots for each division, considering then placing bets only where those odds offered are either one of two things. Firstly, where the differential in wins across the division is wide enough between first and fourth place, in which case the likelihood of exactly predicting the finishing position is more accurate, or if the bookies are simply offering a good price, where the overall finishing predictions are the same as mine, but the differential of wins across the division is perhaps slightly smaller, but the odds make up for that. Now that's explained and you're following along, we'll turn to the first bet which I'm considering this season, looking at the NFC East division. So then, firstly, looking at the NFC East. And the NFC East, of course, contains the current Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you watch my last video, you'll know that I favoured them to do well once again this season. The stats show that they had the best defence overall last season for allowing the least opponent passing yards on average per game, and their roster remains mostly intact. Having looked at the schedule, it's probably unlikely that the Eagles go unbeaten, but it's likely the bookies will have them as a favourite to win each individual game during the regular season. Their floor is probably around 12 wins, and their ceiling, quite frankly, is to go undefeated at 17. Who knows? The remaining teams in the division are, of course, the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And this is a division where I think there are clear tiers of separation in terms of each team's quality. And so it appears somewhat easy, in my view, to predict the finishing position. If you haven't guessed already, I think the Commanders are a really strong team and will be closest in contention in this division against the Eagles, but narrowly behind them considering their secondary has shown to be a little bit exposed by elite passing teams. I still think their offense is very strong. Nonetheless, I see the Commanders finishing with a record this season in the 12-5 region, 12 wins. The Cowboys have had a huge drop-off in recent years, and their offensive line shows no real signs of improvement, making this even more of a difficult season for Dak Prescott at quarterback. And even more recently, their star defensive end, Micah Parsons, has demanded a trade just weeks out from the season starting. Things really aren't looking good in Dallas, and I think the Cowboys will have a tough start to the season, probably finishing with around only 5 to 6 wins. Then that, of course, leads to the New York Giants, who I think will really struggle this season. Again, if you watch my previous video looking at the over-under bets for each team, you know I have the Giants on the under. They have the toughest strength of schedule amongst the all NFL teams this year, and there's no real improvement to their offensive line, which will only hinder Russell Wilson coming in. The team lacks experience and depth overall, so just a few injuries alone could wipe out this team entirely for good and expose them against stronger opponents that they face this year. So I think the Giants will probably finish with under 4 wins this season. That, of course, then leaves the division standings as first place, the Philadelphia Eagles, second place, the Washington Commanders, third place, Dallas Cowboys, and fourth place, the New York Giants. The bookies are offering odds at the moment around 5-1 actually for this exact standing, and I think this is a good angle considering the relatively clear difference in team strength across this division. Next, we'll take a look at the divisional standings for the NFC South. If you looked at my previous videos, you know I'm on the underbet for the Saints. The Saints have no real starting quarterback and lack depth in all three phases. Their offensive line struggles and they have a stagnant passing game, making it difficult to sustain drives, and their injuries are only making existing problems even worse. Having looked at their tough schedule, I see them only achieving a couple of wins this season. More details are of course in my previous video looking at the over-under if you'd like to find out more information. Looking then at the strength of this division, I think most would agree it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are now looking at winning their 5th straight NFC South title this season and show no signs of slowing. They have a disciplined defence and have a balanced offence between an improving run game and the passing game from Baker Mayfield. I can see the Bucs finishing the season with around 14 wins, and again, I think most people would probably agree the Bucs will be winning this division. Perhaps my more controversial take in this division is who will finish second and third. I think actually that contrary to others, that the Carolina Panthers could do really well this season. The team is young with emerging talent on both sides of the ball. They finished 5-12 last season, but they had a very tough schedule. That included losses to the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Commanders and the Bengals, all of whom put up great stats of their own. And indeed, in the case of the Eagles and the Chiefs, they of course reached the Super Bowl. And the Panthers will not play any of those teams this upcoming season. So I really do think this may be the year that Bryce Young settles down in his role at quarterback, and I can see the Panthers finishing the season strong with anything between 8 and 10 regular season wins. That of course then leaves the Falcons. The Falcons struggle to play from behind this season, and they lack offensive firepower, which often put them behind in games last season. They're not known for a strong pass defense either. Despite having a solid run game with Bijan Robinson, which can help Michael Penix Jr. find his feet this year, they have a fairly brutal start to the season facing divisional rivals Tampa Bay, followed by the Vikings, Commanders, Bills and 49ers within the first 6 games. I think the Falcons are a team with promise, but for the purpose of this betting angle, I think the bookies giving odds at around 8-1 is a pretty strong price to the division to finish in this following order. First, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Second, the Carolina Panthers. Third, the Atlanta Falcons. And fourth, the New Orleans Saints, which is why I'll be putting this bet on in the pre-season. So, having looked at the NFC, I'll now turn to the AFC, looking specifically at the AFC West division. Now, of course, in this division, we have the unrelenting Kansas City Chiefs. Hate them or love them, Mr. Mahomes continues to get wins throughout the regular season by any means possible. The team always leads the league with creativity, with plays, with Andy Reid at the helm, and they always simply get the job done. Especially in high-pressure situations, they have no problem whatsoever. The Chiefs have had some defensive improvements, making them even more balanced. And Isaiah Pacheco should start the season fully fit, having missed 11 weeks last season following a fractured tibia, I think it was, in week 2. I can see the Chiefs finishing this season with at least 12 regular season wins quite easily. I think there's a solid chance that the Los Angeles Chargers do well this season with Jim Harbaugh in his second year as head coach. The Chargers quietly ran a really good regular season last year, finishing 11-6. Which is not, it just does not get as much respect as it deserves, quite frankly. Justin Herbert continues to be a solid quarterback, and I see them finishing on a similar record to last season with around 10-11 regular season wins. The Raiders, however, struggled last season, finishing on a 4-13 record, showing weakness in the passing game and losing games quite often in the fourth quarter under the high-pressure situations they faced. The Raiders now have former Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith, which may be just what the team needs. Jacoby Myers may be unlocked to his full potential with Geno Smith signing, and there'll be less predictable reliance on the tight end Brock Bowers, which will help the offense improve as an entire unit. I think the Raiders can finish the season improved to last year, bringing up their total wins from 4 to the region of 6 to 8 wins this season. That then leaves the Denver Broncos, who many people are high on right now. Despite all the hype around Bo Nix, the stats show that the Broncos' offensive production was amongst the lowest in the league last season, with limited pass completion success, limited average offensive yards per game, and poor red zone efficiency, not to mention an inconsistent run blocking on the defensive side of the ball. So for those reasons, I feel the Broncos could actually finish the season with only 4 to 6 wins. That leaves my predictions then for the standings in the AFC West to be: first, Kansas City Chiefs; second, the LA Chargers; third, Las Vegas Raiders; and fourth, the Denver Broncos. And for that exact finish, the bookies are offering big odds at 10 to 1. I think the biggest risk with this bet is finishing position of the Broncos, and I am going against the grain with thinking that the Broncos will not do well this season, but I think at these odds it's a worthwhile bet to consider at the price. If you want more information on the reasons I think the Broncos will finish with not too many wins this season, you can watch my under-overs bet that I posted last week. So now that we've looked at the bets that I'll be placing for divisional placings, there are 2 bets that I came across on the markets for divisional winners specifically. And I think 2 that are a standout are in the NFC South and in the AFC South. As for the NFC South, we've already discussed how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on their track to win their 5th consecutive NFC South title. And so odds at them winning that division for evens to win the division once again seems like a solid bet to me. Looking then at the AFC South, odds are also around evens for the Texans to win the division. The division consists of the Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Tennessee Titans. The Jags and Colts and the Titans all had their own struggles last season, none of which have been obviously addressed during their off-seasons. Last season, the Colts finished with 8 wins, followed by the Jags with just 4 wins and the Titans with 3 wins. Despite the Titans drafting first overall pick Cam Ward, I do not think that alone will be enough for them to win the entire division, which is why I think betting on the Texans to win the division with the improving young quarterback CJ Stroud is a good bet. Some bookies will allow a combination of Texans to win the AFC South and the Buccaneers to win the NFC South at combined odds around 4 to 1, which I think is a good bet to place. So that's it for today's picks. Thanks very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. It takes just a moment of your time and helps this channel a ton, particularly being a new channel. If you're going to be placing any of the bets that I mentioned, or you have any other divisional standings that you're thinking of, do let me know in the comments below and I'll be responding to each and every comment that's left. There'll be more content coming onto this channel in the lead up to the start of the season and weekly tips when the season starts. So please do subscribe for more content similar to this, and I'll see you next time.